Shalom and happy Sunday. I wasn't trying to go live, but since I'm on live, I'm gonna just go ahead and record on the live, and then I will put it on the YouTube. So I told you I have this way of, or maybe it's the spirit that's showing me things, and give me understanding into the hearts of man. It's kind of like a gift, and I feel a lot that people, like, they'll look at certain ones that don't necessarily like succumb to like the social norms, right? Not everyone has to, if it's not for a job or some reason, and no one is being hurt or affected negatively, we all have our own little idiosyncrasies, right? Our little quirks, things that make us all special in our own little way, right? But some are more special than others. You know what I mean? So I know that my mother always referred to me as special. I was an honor student throughout all of my school years and college years, always honor roll, dean's list, always. So it's not that, it was special ed, if this would, someone is thinking like the special ed education kids requiring. So no, if anything, I was actually held back from an opportunity for the Upward Bound program for smart kids who they wanted to like gear their classes towards college preparatory classes. But even my mother she stopped that because nobody had been to college in her family, and she just said no. And because she was a Jehovah's Witness at the time, they did not believe in college. They've since changed their stance on college. But so my mother totally rejected. She declined it. She told me to tell them no, she would not be signing off anything. But so what do you do with all that genius, all that intellect, all that creativity, and you're raised by a family that they don't see you. It's just kind of like neglected. It's not nourished. It's not developed. It's not even pointed out. I can look back and say, oh yeah, I was supposed to be on the pathway to college from a very young age, and instead things took a turn, a left turn, right, a wrong turn back there somewhere, right? But I don't choose to fit in. I don't want to be like everyone else. Most women are just mean and bitter. They just look at other women who they don't know. They're sizing them up immediately. Just in their head comparing. What kind of woman is this, and how can they tear her down? How can they humble her, if she seems to be cute or to have herself together, it just makes you want to not be so inviting just to invite strangers, people you don't know, into your world, right? Um, People come with problems. They call you when they need things, when they're going through problems, which is a lot. People are just full of problems. And it's like when you just kind of change your phone number and no one connects with you, life is very peaceful. I find that I think I have the number one luxury in the world since the beginning of time. Most people don't realize till maybe it's too late, or they're much older, or have health issues. But do you know what that number one luxury is? Time. I have the luxury of time. To walk with my God. I would say God, but I don't believe that we all serve the same God. Because even Elohim says, my people are foolish and they have not known me. If you're not keeping the commandments, you've never known him. And you don't know him now. So you may think that you do because maybe you memorized religious performance, right? If something good, happens, your brain associates that with, oh, that's a blessing from the Lord. Or God told me to do that thing. That was him talking to me. I knew to move to South Carolina or to California, New York, or God's the one who told me to move to Atlanta, to Texas. You hear this sort of thing all the time. And like from what I'm learning in the Bible, God not necessarily wasn't God. If God's saying that, God is in everything, but you don't know the Father if you don't keep His commandments. Because God is love, and we're commanded to love Him with all of our heart, soul, and strength. Which means there's nothing else. There's no more room for anything in our heart to love equally as much as God or more than God, but God the most. And Messiah said, if we love God, we keep the commandments. Those who love God, they keep the commandments. Even if you don't understand why the Sabbath we're commanded, you will understand hereafter. You will understand, right? And it's just like, I hear someone say, what did they say? They didn't understand something about the Bible, so they think that it was just a mistake or something like that. And it's like, no, you just have to obey, and more will be revealed, right? There was fear. Someone says, well, I don't believe that God would want us to. I never understood why God wanted us to fear Him, because fear is a low vibration or something. Yeah, of course, guys say fear casts love. Fear has torment in it, right? So clearly, God doesn't want us to be fearful. But wisdom begins with fear of the Lord. Now, if people would just obey and fear the Lord, in the sense that if you are not keeping the Sabbath, there is a fear of a consequence, right? Or if you're going to sleep with someone that's not your husband, it is that fear that is going to kind of put a boundary around, your life to keep you from drifting off, wandering, erring in the faith, right? Chasing that thing that God knows is going to ultimately stumble you, right? Because God says, fear not, But it's like, sometimes I'm like, okay, it doesn't even matter, because a person who's their own God, who does not want to obey God, it doesn't even matter what you tell them. They're listening to respond, not to obey and understand. Because if you obeyed and were just humble yourself and fear God and keep his commandments, fear and obey him like King Solomon, the wisest man ever, then you would know that when you truly do that, it's immediately fear not. Those who never feared God, they never got a chance to know that. That God says, fear not. Once you fear him. But what is the point in me telling disobedient, children of disobedience, children of darkness, right? Because it's like, oh, now you're doing it because you're thinking you're going to get, which that's not obedience, right? So this is why God confounds and confuses and blinds the minds and the eyes and deafens the ears of the people. Once they hear it, they forget it and it's gone. If they don't apply it, if they don't obey, it falls by, like the seed that falls by the wayside and the birds come and get it, or it falls on a stony ground like a hard heart, and it has no roots, and when the sun comes up it shrivels up and dies, right? Or it's like sown amongst the thorns and the weeds, right? And it gets choked in the weeds when it tries to grow, right? Or the doubt, the disbelief, in your heart, in your mind, it can't like coincide with faith, because faith is like believing with all your mind, right? Where it's not wavering, because a person who is like double-minded and doubtful, like they're like the sea, like the water when it like crashes against the shore, like the waves, how it goes back and forth, like that person can expect to get nothing, right? When they have a double mind. So it's like at some point you make a choice, right, to commit to serving God and obeying God. And even during those times we don't understand. I mean, think about how many people are on the planet, how many children of Israel are on the planet. And if there's an appointed time under all this deception, and the deception runs very deep, the whole world has been deceived. Do you think God has time to individually wait for every single person on the planet to understand everything about everything? And even if they did, someone sat there and preached a 6-hour lecture, they would probably just forget. Like the man who looks in the mirror and beholds his face, and then when we are only hearers of the word and we're not doers, the moment he turns away from the mirror, and he forgets what he even looks like, right? That's what happens. So if you are if you choose Christ to be the head of your life, it means his word is the same as God's word, because he is only speaking what God told him to speak. He is speaking God's words, not his words. He says this in the Bible. So either we believe that we receive Christ and we obey what God is telling us, or we reject it, right? God says there's no other God beside me. There's no other God like me. And in the end, all nations will know it, right? And it's like the only way to believe, the reason why I'm saying this is you have to have the faith of a child. And when you come on an adult, sometimes they're so smart for their own good. It's like, and they want to make you feel like there's something wrong with you. And it's like, well, ever consider maybe the opposite is true? Maybe the world is full of sick people, and there are those of us who are, we'll say, special enough to know that we don't want to be absorbed into the energy and the atmosphere and the sickness and the sin and the disease and the dysfunction and the psychopathic, energy and ideology, and we choose not to. So we end up kind of with the quirky, original personality, not like the clique of mean girls, who would be at a party and probably not dance because they don't want to look silly, but what's the purpose of going to a party? Because this is just the social norm, is that they stand around or they sit around and smoke on a hookah or whatever the trend is, drink the liquor or whatever, I don't know, and just look cute, right? I'm just throwing stuff out there as an example. Just hopefully you get what I'm saying. Like, if that's the norm, you don't speak when you enter a room, because it's all about I'm the queen and I don't chase and I attract and all this kind of stuff. So I'm never going to go compliment someone else or speak to them first, because it's all about me. And every single woman is thinking the same way, and the men too are even competing with the women. So it's just like the world is really messed up, and the people is what I mean. So it's like I don't know how to say it without, like, other than to just say it. Like, the very people who how can I say it? I just say, don't be so confident and so sure that you are entering heaven, that you qualify, that and I'm not, or everyone else is. No one else is, right? But we shouldn't be so confident that because we've managed to fit in with sinners, with popular society, with with the wealthy, that their chances are even less, the least, because we've matriculated our way into blending in with sick people who are in need of a savior. Like, you are more like correct or something, and someone who doesn't choose, someone who rejects this world, they are in need of a mental diagnosis, or something along those lines. I mean, I get this kind of like energy that come from people sometimes, and it's just like a little arrogant on their part, but that's fine. I know how to, what do they call it, code switch. I've been on jobs where hated it. When you go into that little work voice, like, and the fake smile, like, as your coworkers or anybody is like walking past you, and it's like I was stuck in this zombie like slither of a person, right? Like a very, very narrow slither of who I am. Is like how I felt I had to show up and speak a certain way, and only move a certain way, only make a certain facial expression, only like walk with my feet like so many centimeters apart, only it was just like everything was just so contrived and like forced, and I was a shell of a human being, of a real person. Maybe it wasn't that way for everyone, but no one was thinking anything, or I don't know what they were thinking, but it wasn't so obvious, anyone's thinking special ed on the short bus, this kind of thing, I mean, that's fine with people thinking that. It's just food for thought, that what if those ones who are special, who reject this world, who don't fit in with this world, what if you found out, as you very well may, let me not get ahead of myself, but what if you found out this is actually Hades. This is actually hell. This is actually the underworld. This is death. And those of us who are ascending have rejected hell. We're not trying to be cool with the congregation of the dead, is kind of what I'm saying. And Messiah says, and I tell you guys all the time, a couple of things. You don't understand what I'm doing now, but hereafter you will understand. And two, I tell you all the time, be careful entertaining strangers, because by doing so, many have entertained angels unawares. And Messiah tells you judgment at the end, when he divides those on his left and his right hand, and he tells those on the right, he blesses them, welcomes them, and those on the other hand, he rejects. He truly, I never knew you, depart from me. They're cast back out into the outer darkness, right? Rejected eternally. So when they ask why, he says to each, those on the left and those on the right, the same thing pretty much, but opposite. When I was hungry, you fed me. Thirsty, you gave me drink. When I was in prison, you came to see me. When I was cold, you offered me clothing, shelter, everything, that I needed, and within your means to help me, to give to me, you gave. It's better to give. Truly, truly, it's better to give than it is to receive. So those who are in the business of receiving, and they think that this is the flex, when God's whose ways are much, much higher than ours, who sits way higher than us, whose thoughts we cannot even fathom, he says that it is better to give than receive. Okay? So the people who are cool in this world, they are receiving. Yeah, they may give, and then they go and blast the trumpets, and they let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. Every time they do that, they've already received the reward. I don't know why people do that. I think to myself, well, you just received your reward in full. You had about maybe, 10,000, 30,000 eyeballs on you. How many likes is this going to get? 8,000 likes, maybe even 127,000 likes, 200,000 likes. I don't know, but that is your reward in full. It is the approval, the hand clapping of man. You couldn't even keep it in secret when you know that the Father sees what he sees in secret. He repays you openly, because it's you got to let people know you gave. What is it, out of guilt? What are you guilty of? If nobody knows you gave, then whose rules are you operating off? Every time someone sits on a stage full of, with the cameras, and they do that sort of thing, I just think to myself, they don't even know. It's like they just, I don't know, they cashed in their chips. If I don't gamble, but this is just what comes to mind. Their chips were worth so much in the heavenlies, but they just cashed them in for an earthly, bowl of soup, right? They don't understand that. So it's like, when you understand all these things, that everything here is upside down and opposite, it's just like, okay, I got to move upside down and opposite to be right side up, right? Know what I mean? Somebody will catch that. That was for somebody. But and then there are people with special needs. There are people with mental diagnosis, and yeah, there should be government system and assistance and things like that in place for them. But even ones who may not even necessarily be in that kind of category of like special, but because the world is so degenerate and they are just like fighting tooth and nail to like create a space, a kingdom, separate from this world with other righteous souls that are all going to abide by God's standard of righteousness, meaning we every knee bowing, to the word of God, that we're on code. That's it. We don't steal, we don't lie, we don't murder, we don't, that's the a little space that I'm trying to carve out right now to even exist in this world. Just going on a job 9 to 5, it'll ruin my righteousness, my right standing with God. I'm telling you, because the people are so wicked and corrupt. Everyone from the management to the employees at the bottom, they're just as bad. They're worse. The lower you go down management, the worse, the poorer the attitude, I find. And those are the kind of people often I end up working with, and they rob you of something, your peace of mind. They just make terrible, working conditions. And I can't tell you how many times, because they say, oh, we don't need a reason to fire you. It's called at will. Georgia is an at will state. So even though like I'm the type, I'm going to give you 2-week notice. That's just the way I was taught. Never just quit a job. Oh, I just quit a job now. Today I would, because I know what it means. They will exercise their right to at will to terminate employment. And there's, even if it's like racist, this has happened. I have had managers just blatantly lie on me, like, when I was even like 16 working, like my first job, there was a manager. I think she was Mexican. I hate to say that, but I never forget. I felt so betrayed, like from a young age, by authority figure when she tried to fire me. She was the manager on something that I was not even the type of person to give out free food like to anyone. I was just like too smart for that, right? Like, not gonna lose my job, right? That's stealing from the company. In my mind, it made sense to me. I don't know if she's used to dealing with people giving out free food, but there's cameras, and I just remember feeling really like hurt by that. Like, I'm like, please look at the cameras. You are mistaken. I can tell you for a fact, you are mistaken. She wanted to like even try to double down on it, and when I insisted, like, because I say, at the end of the day, what you're saying is it didn't happen. You're lying, basically, is what I wanted to say. But I'm like, this can easily be proven from the camera. So I knew she didn't, but it was just the fact that she tried me. It was just like, okay, she was kind of shaped like SpongeBob, as they say. So I felt like she was jealous or something. I don't know. In my mind, I really didn't like. I wasn't thinking that other women are like. I didn't know what jealousy like really was like. You know what I mean? So I wasn't thinking that. But looking back, I say, I was very cute, petite, and all that jazz. So I don't know. I was very like the nice girl, like I told you guys. This guy was being silly, but he was like, spot on. Like, when you are nice all the time, like a good girl, it's like the moment you try to speak up, it will make people really feel like they have to like test your gangster. Like, they have to try to silence you. Like, how dare you speak up? Like, you just shut up and let the smart people talk. Like that. I'm like, that is exactly how it is. Like, no lies. So I have had to learn to, like, even come off a little more, a little harder on the exterior than like soft in the beginning phases. It's just like a protective, like, it's just the world that we live in. And that God had that wisdom, is why he said, be wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove, right? You have to be. And maybe it's going to start to sink in what this place is, why you have to be this way, and why is everyone like this? Why is almost everyone on the planet, like, evil? Like, as long as you are despising God's laws, you're evil, you're wicked, man, to your core. I don't care if you have to trick yourself into keeping the commandments, into having a desire to be righteous. Whatever you need to do, pray. You can't trick yourself into it. I know you don't want to do it because nobody, I don't know, the flesh just doesn't want to. I had to pray. Like, I don't know, maybe that's what made me smart, because I didn't ever feel like I was smart. But I'm like, once I understood, okay, what the whole purpose of the Bible, like, kind of like the higher purpose for being here, it's just like all the other little frivolous, like, temporal stuff is just like, okay, that should dull in comparison, right? I want the eternal salvation. I want the everlasting life. Like, I don't know, that's the way my brain processed things, and still, like, half my life, most of my life, it was a struggle to get to the place where I am now, where I'm like, okay, God, I'm choosing you, and I'm rejecting the world and everything in it, right? I had to get bumped up and bruised and scratched and scarred, like, big time before, I'm to the point now where it's like, it's unshakable. It's unshakable faith now, right? It's unshakable. Like, till the wheels fall off. Like, I'm not straying away from the faith. I'm not gonna do that, right? And I guess that's what it means for your mind to be sealed, for your forehead to be sealed. It's just like, like, you're in there. No matter when you die, you kind of already, like, received the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. Is like already, like, entered in this temple, right? And it's incorruptible seed. It's immortal, right? So you're living from a mindset of, like, an immortal being. So you're not so easily, like, tempted by the little flashy things anymore. You fell for all that bull crap plenty of time anyway, right? I mean, at some point, you're given over to a reprobate mind when you don't learn. Like, how many times do you have to touch the hot stove and burn your hand before okay, I'm not going to touch the stove anymore, right? So that's how it is for me, right? And then you realize, you know what? The fire doesn't even, like, scathe you. It doesn't even, like, burn you, right? Sealed by fire is what happens when you're able to withstand the fire. Like, the fiery trials and tribulations. When you're able to, like, just lock in with God and just stand. That's all you gotta do. Stand. Like, most people fall. They're gonna fall. They're gonna wander. They're gonna, and if you fall, you gotta get back up. Like, aim to be the last man standing. If that's gonna help you run your race, give you a mental, like, image, like, everybody needs a vision board. Like, when sin comes, like, resist the devil, he'll flee, right? And if you stay in your word, the answers will come on how to resist the temptation, right? Be still. That's easy. If you don't know what to do, real simple. A child can understand that. Be still. Sit on your hands. What can you do if you just be still, right? and watch your associations and evil communications, because people who are for the world, they're always going to have jokes. They're always going to have like sarcasm, and they come with the mocking and the scorning, and that's the devil in them as well too. Because it's just like, if people are so happy with their lives and they think that their path is like better, or then you wouldn't feel any type of way about anybody else's path, anybody else's purpose, right? You're going to be content in what you're doing. But I'll tell you this, and I'm going to get off. A lot of people are not going to like this, but all these little bloggers that gossip and damage people reputation and stuff like that, and they feel like, oh, just because it's on the internet, it's fair. Like, y'all not getting in. Y'all, that's it. It doesn't even need to be a discussion. I've been like trying to like say, like, even here's an answer. God said, make money with your hands. With working with your hands, right? So that way you're not sitting. People who sit around for a living, tearing people down. Like, how do you even respect yourself when your meal is coming from you waiting to catch somebody's like vulnerable or painful situation, or you know what I mean, something like that, and then you're going to sit there and slice it and dice it and sit and just talk about it and break it down, and talking about another person's personal problems. And this is a career, this is a living, this is a, you get what I don't know. I see things so differently, right? And somebody may be offended by that, who feels like this is the hustle, this is the job. And I hear it. People look at that like, a prostitute can feel the same way. It's just a job, right? It's just money. That's it. It's nothing wrong. You know what I mean? You can be so like far gone in this world. So that's what happens when guys say, by the love of money, many have erred from the faith, and they don't even know it, right? They think it's the norm because everybody else is doing it, right? I'm starting to feel like, the video that I saved in the music on my new page, backup page. It's like all these people, they were wearing these like dark gray clothes, like they were, Congregation of the Dead. That's what people remind me of. Like paparazzi, whatever, on YouTube. They had these masks, they were covering their face and their bodies. And there was a big swarm of people. They were running, chasing after, was it Kanye, I think, and Kendrick Lamar. And it's just like, he couldn't even like go that way, because it was like all the nosy media, it's just like, put yourself in the people's shoes that people like you do this for a living. Do you think that we could ever cohabitate in the same kingdom? If there is one body, one Holy Spirit, there is one head, which you are not underneath that headship if you are doing this for a living. Slanderers, talebearers, whisperers, and like, they will not enter God's kingdom. They will not inherit it. So they are definitely not thinking eternal. They're not thinking like kings, like gods. Like, they're thinking like peasants of just today, right? Bowl of soup, right? Like Esau, right? It's why a little suffering is like required. If you don't have what it takes to suffer a little bit, like for the reward, it's already being revealed. By the way, uh-oh, that's already it's being revealed as we speak, right? It's just like the cutoff is going to come real quick, I can see, because something is happening in the spirit where I feel like whoever you are in association with, your spirits are being like bind together. And it's like when two people marry, it's like whoever you're associating with, it's like all of those spirits of those sinners and their sin is like being bound with yours. You're like that slush pile when Messiah was giving a parable of the kingdom of heaven. is like a fisherman who casts his net. When he's tossing out all the bad fish and then the good fish on it, it's like, okay, some of you are still over, you're being, because you are among, you haven't come out voluntarily from among them. Okay, you're just in that pile like by default because you're not hot or cold. You didn't come out of Babylon. I hope I'm making sense. You see, we don't have to overcomplicate it. A child can understand that, right? Are you going to worship God or the devil? You think you're worshiping the God, and I'm telling you, if you were listening, that's why I took all the Bible study down. Nobody's listening. Nobody's paying attention. Okay. Well, Messiah said, well, seek me while I may be found, because, the poor who you attend to every Sunday, every Wednesday night, they will always be among us. They will always be with us. But me, you will not have always. And where I go, you cannot go. All right? You will seek me, and you shall not be able to find me. But whoever seeks me diligently with all your heart, you will find me, is what the Lord said. Okay? And he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. But everyone is caught up in trying to fit in with the world. It's just like not that serious to me right now. But I have a luxury of time right now, and see, somebody would still look at this as like, you know what, I don't even care what someone, because I see that people will speculate, right? If you are married, they will find something wrong with that. Oh, she shouldn't be talking to other men because she's married, so she's a harlot because she's got a whole husband that she's no good. You can't turn a right? If I'm not married, then you're gonna be you're gonna die alone with your dog. You're past the wall. You hit the wall. The wall is undefeated. See, that's why you don't have a husband. That's why you know what? If you want a husband, if you want to be a wife, then they drag you, like, what have they say, by your eyelashes, all up and down the YouTube streets, right? So it's just like that. I won't even give you anything to even try, and you get what I'm saying? It's just like a luxury of time is what everyone wants. They want freedom, right? I have freedom right now, but let everyone else tell it. I'm special ed, and you are winning, and we are going in opposite directions. Actually, I sat down a while ago, and I've been waiting for too long. I think I've been waiting for a little while don't have my watch on, but I've been waiting. Did the song say, I will wait for you? He didn't say I wait forever, but I will wait for you. But anyways, what do I know? I'm just a cat lady. If you only knew. Maybe you will know. Maybe you will. Maybe you will. I just know that people have a way of like ruining everything. Like anything that's good. I'm finding that most people, I don't want to say most people, but a lot of people, they don't want to see anyone doing good. That's terrible. It's terrible. I see it. It's just like, and if it's a situation where it's like, okay, you're not intimidated by this other woman's success, you're not even going to comment on. Guess what? On this day, someone is rolling out of bed, and this woman is catching all kind of stray bullets from all of the low vibrational trolls, who have all this time on the internet, by the way. And then on days where, maybe they're finally, coming up for air, they're going to take a break with trolling, you know. This is the day that you decide, you wake up and everybody is catching stray bullets because you're just like, just just hating on everything in sight, just like your unhealed parts of yourself being triggered, just wanting to be the contrarian, just say something opposite of, you go through the comments and, everyone else has said everything that you would say. So now you just got to say something. Technically you don't always, that's another thing. I'll end it on this. You don't always have to say something, right? Everything doesn't require your opinion, your comment. I learned this. I even practice this. Sometimes it's like you see something and you want to be the first to like. I don't need to be even speaking right now. I don't even need to be saying anything to anyone right now. And it's just like if we could catch ourselves like at least some of the time, but the majority of the time, I mean, all the time would be perfect, where even if we want to go and say something good, I mean, there should be nothing wrong with saying something good, but I'm just saying, like, I think most of the time people don't say anything on what I post, but sometimes people will say things negative, and I'm just like, was it necessary for you to even, I prefer that you just said nothing like everyone else. Just just don't even see me. Pretend I'm invisible like everyone else. You could have kept that negative energy over there to yourself, But anyways, I love you guys, and I will see you on the next one. Happy Sunday. Shalom.